Hi, and welcome back to Picard Cast. I'm your host this evening, Rebekah, and as always, I am joined on the bridge of the Enterprise with my co-host, Brooke. Welcome back, Brooke.
Hi.
Well, it's been a crazy week, Brooke, because last week we talked about the Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and how when it first aired in 1990, back then had to wait 3 whole months for the second part, but not for you guys who are listening today in 2019. You only had to wait a week to find out.
That was the
Sorry?
longest week of my life.
I'm telling you, very long week. But what we have done is we have gotten back our special guest from last week. She's back again to finish talking about Best of Both Worlds. It's my sister, Janine. Welcome back, Janine.
Oh my God, she's back again.
It's true.
If you ever
It's true.
come back, you have to do that.
Oh, okay.
Every time.
So, Janine, did you also have a very long 7-day week between last recording and this recording?
So long.
So many things happened. So many adventures. We all grew as people.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you got stuck on the MTA like how many times? I mean,
probably 7, one for each day.
Hey, that's doing pretty good, I think.
I know, right? At least not twice a day. So tonight, as we said, we will be continuing our journey as we conclude the story of the Best of Both Worlds. And as Brooke mentioned last week, you had said that you felt like this was one of the best cliffhangers in TV. And I'm inclined to agree with you, at least for me. I think this is one of the best, if not the best, cliffhanger in TV history. And I say that without sarcasm. I really do feel that way.
I mean, I definitely think it's the best one that I've seen in Star Trek.
Oh,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am very hard pressed to think of one that was more exciting than this of anything else. So I'm just gonna err on the side of caution and just say it's one of the best because I may be forgetting something that I loved. I don't know, Golden Girls.
Right.
I don't know. They didn't have any like season-ending cliffhangers, and they weren't like.
Right. Well, I would say, like, at least for me, the stakes were pretty high here. Not only are we talking about, the life of Captain Picard, who we've come to love and admire and respect, but we're also talking about the fate of the human race, right? They're ready to assimilate Earth. And if they assimilate Earth, it's not going to be very hard to then build a whole bunch more Borg ships and, assimilate the rest of the quadrant, etc. Janine, what are your thoughts on this cliffhanger that we had in part 1? Like, where would you rank it as far as like cliffhangers you've seen in like TV? And it doesn't have to be a formal, but what are your thoughts on this cliffhanger?
I mean, it's probably number one, honestly, just because it's the most memorable. I haven't watched Star Trek in a number of years, but as soon as you guys released your schedule of episodes, and this was one of them, it's like the whole thing just came back into my head. It's like even just the feelings of watching it, like even rewatching the episodes, like you have that moment of seeing Picard turned into a Borg. You have that shock. There's so much uncertainty. It's like, you've followed this captain for 3 seasons now, and suddenly he's been taken over by one of the scariest villains in sci-fi history. And I remember watching it as a kid and just being completely blown away. And so this is definitely probably the number one TV cliffhanger.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. So without further ado, since we got to know you last week, Janine, and your history with Star Trek, we are going to dive right into part 2 of Best of Both Worlds. So this originally aired September 24th, 1990, 3 months and I believe 1 week, you said last week, Brooke, after part 1.
Yeah, it was like June 13th or something. Like it was more than exactly three months.
Yeah.
That's just painful thinking about it. And I know I keep talking about it, but I'm somebody who's, lived through the long periods of time between Doctor Who episodes. I mean, into a lesser degree Sherlock episodes, but that 3 months still seems like it would have been rough.
Oh, it was.
It's so funny that I keep hearkening on it, because it just seems unfathomable now, in the world of, like, streaming and binge watching and stuff.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you youngins now have no clue what it was to wait 3 months for an episode. No, you just turn on your Netflix on your Google Box, and you can watch the very next episode right away. Get off my lawn.
On your Google
Go back
Box.
to your interwebs.
You and your interwebs. Get off my lawn. It's true. So this is, of course, season 4, episode 1, directed by Cliff Bowl, written by Michael Piller, Joe Manosky, and Ronald D. Moore, all names of people who have been heavily involved in Star Trek for a very long time. And the synopsis is, having absorbed Captain Picard and his knowledge, the Borg head for Earth, leaving Riker and the Enterprise desperate for an unanticipated way to defeat them. So, we open up right where part 1 left off. We're on the bridge of the Enterprise. The crew is preparing to fire the modified deflector shield weapon that they have invented. Of course, Riker gives that order. He says, fire. And we're all expecting the Borg ship to explode and poor Captain Picard to die. And instead, literally nothing happens. Exactly. Nothing happens. And Riker looks completely defeated of like, well, dang, that was our last shot. What are we going to do now? Locutus then tells Riker that since Picard is now part of the Borg, his knowledge and experience is part of their collective. So Picard knew about the plan for the deflector weapon, so therefore the Borg know about it. They were prepared for it. And he tells him resistance is hopeless, number 1, which is slightly, I mean, that's just like kind of stabs you in the heart, right? Because usually it's resistance is futile, but he says resistance is hopeless, number one.
Plus, he says it like a curse, like resistance is hopeless, bitch, number 1.
I like that he still sort of sounds like Patrick Stewart, only like talking into a box fan or something.
He totally does sound like that. It's true. And then we get a first officer's log, stardate 44001.4, which is Sunday, June 5, 2366, at about 7:09 p.m. Riker has Admiral Hansen on space Skype, and he tells him, the Admiral says that they are assembling the fleet at Wolf 359. The Klingons are sending some ships, and he says that they've even thought about calling the Romulans to come help the fight.
What?
I would. Romulans? Like, it's Shaggy, Romulans. Sorry, my voice is doing that thing again. Sorry, everybody. I've been sick, so... So then, this scene is kind of interesting because they're trying to make Admiral Hansen understand that Picard is part of the Borg now. And Admiral Hansen, like he refuses to understand that. He's like, he tells them this story about how he watched Picard when he was a freshman. He won the Academy Marathon. He was like the only freshman to do it. And he beat all these seniors.
He's like, listen, I've kept a close eye on him for a long time. You know?
Yeah, he's like, let me tell you about Jean-Luc Picard, buddy.
Right. And before I had my eye on Commander Shelby, it was Jean-Luc Picard.
Okay, sir,
like,
gross.
Hansen is like all over everybody. This is what you didn't know. And
he's like
out right now.
He's like the Joe Biden of Starfleet. He doesn't understand about that good touch, bad touch. Sorry, everybody. We try to keep the politics out. I apologize.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry. So it's like he doesn't get it. And he's a casualty of war. So they're all like, oh, so I guess we're not going to rescue him now? Okay. And he does field promote Riker to captain of the Enterprise. So as we've seen in real life in battle, soldiers can get field promotions if people die or there's a need. So he absolutely gets that field promotion. Now he's captain of the Enterprise. We jump on the Borg ship here, and we see Picard like on this like operating table almost, and they're finishing up his assimilation. Like he wasn't quite done when they let him talk, but now
They did
they're
a rough job so he could intimidate the Enterprise. But now they gotta put the finishing touches.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not ready yet, and then it's like, no, the show is on.
I know, the show must go on. Just put them on the screen. What is interesting here is what is different than what we will see in the future when the Borg assimilate people. They actually do chop off limbs, and they do actually even cut out eyes to insert like optical pieces or whatever. In this case, they don't. Very conveniently, they do not chop off his arm to put on his Borg blender attachment that they do, and they put it on a thing or like around his eye. So that was really nice of them not to cut him up.
A little whirly gig on his head.
He does have a whirly gig. I feel like it's always searching for a Wi-Fi signal. I feel like it's like, hold on, what's the Wi-Fi here? And it's like searching, and it's, yeah. Oh, look, Google Starbucks. I'll just jump on that.
The repeater. The Wi-Fi repeater.
There you go. I do think...
Bucks.
Sorry?
Space
I was going to say Space Starbucks, but then I was like, no, it should just be Space Bucks. Anyway, sorry.
Space Bucks.
It can still be S Bucks.
S Bucks, there you go.
When you shorthand it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that in this scene we get probably, I think, and it definitely is a little bit, it's a little over the top, but we do get a scene of Picard, and there's a single tear that rolls down his cheek.
CGI tear.
It is. I know
it's a
CGI tear. I know that. But I'm saying that, is it a little hammy? It's a little hammy. But I think
That's
was...
why it's CGI, because they were like, what if? This is great. This looks great, you guys. But what if there was one little tear?
Well, because I think that with that one little thing, they tell you, the audience, that Picard is aware of what's happening.
Like,
He's not
still in there.
He is still in there, which... again, is very different than future assimilations that we will see. Mm-hmm. That basically once they start assimilating you, that's it, you're gone. Mm-hmm. But here, it's like he's totally aware of what they're doing to him, and he can't stop it. And I feel like this ties in... Go ahead, Brooke.
Sorry. So there's an episode of Doctor Who where someone is being like encased in a Cyberman outfit, and usually,
I remember that episode.
Usually they just like you just hear, saws and stuff, and then they come out, and you just assume it's just their brain and maybe some of their other parts or whatever, like Borg. But like they're like closing the helmet in on his face and like using a laser to sew it up, and he's going, no, and then he hears this child crying, and through the power of love, he doesn't become a Cyberman. So
that was a great moment.
Yeah. So, it's a...
But honestly, this scene feels a little bit like in Flash Gordon, when they were trying to wipe Dr. Zarkov's brain, and they couldn't wipe everything because he was reciting like the Beatles and just anything else. I kind of almost get the sense that the Admiral was like, don't count Picard out because I know how strong